In this video, you will acquire the most fundamental points that will help you throughout the entire course. We will talk about data. We will talk about entering data. We will also look at what is going on when you enter data, how Excel treats what you enter, and the best ways to enter data. We will focus on the best practices when you do data entry. So let's begin. I have Excel already open here, and there was something that I mentioned in the previous lecture. It is that of the active cell. So if you click on a cell, it becomes active cell. Now if you start typing in the active cell, it will be data that you're entering into Excel. So let's say I type something and press enter. Now at this point, the active cell is shifting down. So we can type something in the Excel, press enter, and then the active cell shifts down. We can actually do a couple more things. Let's say we type something else, and I hold Control key and press enter, and the active cell doesn't go anywhere. It just stays whatever it was. I can type again, and I will be typing into the same active cell and do Control enter again. So Control enter is a useful technique to stay inside the cell, the active cell, without shifting it down. But if you need to shift, you can shift not only down, you can also shift up. For example, I will type example, and now I'm gonna hold Shift key and press enter. And in this case, the active cell is not shifting down, but instead is shifting up. I can also type something else. I'll say 1, 2, 3, and press tab on the keyboard, tab key. It will shift the active cell to the right after accepting what I typed. And if I type something else and hold Shift tab, hold Shift and press tab, then I am accepting what I just typed and also shifting to the left. So you can actually just kind of play a little game and decide, well, where do I want to go after I enter information into that cell? Do I want to hit enter and go down? Do I need to stay inside the cell? Or do I need to go right, left, or up? So there are like enter, tab, control enter, and also shift tab and shift enter. Various techniques. Now, let's look at what Excel actually allows you to put in. Let's do a little experiment. I'm going to make the column a little bit wider by clicking between two column letters, headings here, E and F. So E is a little bit wider. So let me type some text. I'm going to type hello and press enter. Okay, so far so good. I'm going to type a number now, 1, 2, 3, and press enter. Look at that. Text is left aligned by default, and the number that I entered is right aligned by default. That is really interesting, is it not? Excel can recognize what you type and determine what to do with it. In this case, it is left aligning or right aligning. But let me do this also. I'm putting a date, 1/1/99, something like that, and press enter. Well, that is interesting, is it not? It is right aligned, just like a number is right aligned. Well, dates in Excel are actually numbers, and they're numbers in a very, very special format, in a number format. They're not numbers in a number format, they're numbers in a date format. So let me show you something else. I'm going to type in today's date. An easy way to type today's date is use Control semicolon shortcut. Instead of typing, I'm doing Control semicolon, and now I can press enter. Again, the date is a number. Let me put in a different date though. I'm going to put a date 1999. Okay, 12/31/1899. I was thinking about that one. 12/31/1899. It is left aligned, just like text. It is not a number. Excel does not recognize numbers until the first day of the last century, of the 20th century. So if I type 1/1/1900, it is a number. The day before is not a number. So that is interesting to know, not very useful. I don't think many people keep track of things, you know, at that age. So let's look at a couple other things. So let's say I click on a cell that already has some value in it, like a date. Now, if you look at the formula bar, I mentioned the formula bar is in the previous lecture. The formula bar is actually showing you what's inside the active cell. So the formula bar never lies to you, well, almost never lies to you. It is showing you the content of the cell. So the formula bar is very prominent in Excel, and you want to pay attention to what's inside your formula bar. In some cases, you will have a formula in the cell. The formula will show you some result, but you will not know that it's a formula. You might think it's a number. But if you look at the formula bar, in most cases, you will see exactly what's inside that cell. And if it is a formula, then you will see a formula, not a number, not a result of the formula. Now, sometimes we don't want to overtype what we type into a cell. We simply want to edit. We want to correct it. And there are several ways to do that in Excel. One way is click on the formula bar. When you click on the formula bar, it gives you a little blinking cursor, and now you can start typing something, something. You will be editing what's inside the cell. So many people use click on the formula bar method to edit what's inside the cell. Another way to do that, I'm going to Control Enter now to basically accept my changes. Actually, erased everything. So another way that people do it is double-clicking on the cell itself. If you double-click on the cell itself, you will notice that the cell acquires a blinking cursor, and now you are editing what's inside the cell. You are in the edit mode. You are editing what's inside the cell. So what if you type something and you want to cancel it? Say, well, I didn't mean that. Well, there are two options. You can press Escape key on the keyboard, which is the easiest option. Just press Escape key. Or you can, I'm going to double click and type some gibberish here. You can also click on this button right here on the left-hand side of the formula bar, Cancel button. There are two buttons that are used to enter data. When you enter data, you can cancel little X button, or you can click on the check mark that will accept your change. So if you start making changes, you want to cancel out, you can hit Escape key, or you can click on the X button. I personally never ever click on the X button. I don't like clicking, so I just hit Escape key. There's another way to get into the edit mode. It's double click on the cell, or click on the formula bar, or you can press key F2. F2 has a very special meaning. It is actually edit content or edit mode in Excel. And it is actually working in some other applications. Microsoft is using it in other places as well when you need to edit something small. So double click on the cell, click on the formula bar, or hit F2 key in order to get into the edit mode. So Excel can recognize text, numbers, and dates are actually numbers, or it can also recognize formulas. I'm going to do a little formula. We're going to talk about formulas in the many of the next videos, but Excel recognizes a formula if you press equal sign. When you press equal sign, you can do something like 2 plus 2, which will be what, 4. And then I'm going to accept my change by Control Enter. And look at that, it's 4. It shows me 4. I told you that Excel is a little bit misleading. It can be misleading. You look at the spreadsheet and you see 4 here, but if you look at the formula bar, you will see that it's actually a formula that's inside this cell. So if you look at the cell, it shows you the result. If you look at the formula bar, you know it's a formula. And it's not immediately obvious unless you look at the formula bar. Now, I want to mention something really, really important in Excel when you do data entry. And it's this thing here, I'm on Home tab, and I am on the number group. The so-called general format. Whenever you type in Excel, you see that general format. But after you type and after you accept your change, you will see that it might be a different format. So let me show you an example. Let's say I do example, and I do Control Enter to accept the change. I see that it's still general format. Nothing really, nothing really changed here from the formatting standpoint. Now, what if I type something else? I type a date again. I'm going to do Control semicolon to type today's date again. Control semicolon. Nice shortcut. And now I accept the change. Look what happens with the format. The format has changed. It is no longer general format. It is date format. Let me type something else. I'm going to type 25 and type %, 25%. Wow, look at that. That is no longer general format. That is percentage format. Let me give you another example. I'm going to type $100, $100. I don't need to type the $. I accept the change. And what's interesting, Excel has changed the format into currency. But if you look at the formula bar, the formula bar shows you what is exactly in the cell. You do not see the $sign anywhere, but the $sign is displayed on the screen here. So if you look at the screen, it's the $sign 100. If I look at the formula bar, there's no $sign, and currency is the format. So the general format is actually adaptive format. It is like Excel is waiting for you to do some input, and then it will decide what to do with it, how to show it, how to format it. So be aware of it. Excel is changing things for you. Let me show you another example. So let's say I want to type January 12. Well, that's what I want. And I accept my change, Control Enter, or click on the check mark or whatever, just enter. And something changes. If I look at the cell, it's not what I typed. If I looked at the format, it is custom format. And if I look at the formula bar, it is actually giving me a date. And I didn't type that date, I typed January 12, but it is giving me January 12, 2013, which is January 12th of this year when I record this video. So Excel has changed things on me again, even though I didn't type it. So sometimes it's a disservice that Excel does for you. Now, if you want to overwrite what Excel does for you, there are a couple of ways to do that, but remember one, apostrophe. If you type apostrophe, and even if you type a number, the apostrophe will trick Excel into not recognizing whatever you type as a number or even a formula. If I do equal sign 2 plus 2 here, that's a formula. But if I put a little apostrophe, let me get into edit mode. Oops, I'm pressing too many buttons here. Let's say I put apostrophe right before the equal sign, then Excel will not recognize it as a formula. Also, it will recognize it as text. So one little trick is to use apostrophe when you want to overwrite what Excel does for you when you do data entry. Now, before I wrap it up, before we finish with this video, I want to mention this one method that people use. Sometimes I see that people type something. Let me actually type right here. I'm going to type something, and people click out to accept the change. And that works in 99% of the cases. So that's another way to accept your change if you want to accept it. You type something and you click out. But in some cases, it will mess up your work. So I would recommend not to do this method, not to utilize this method. But instead, if you want to accept change, hit enter, hit tab, shift enter, shift tab, control enter, or click on the accept or reject changes buttons here. But don't simply click out. And I might give you an example of why that is not a good idea in one of the next videos. Well, and for now, before you move on to the next topic, I encourage you to click around, to explore, enter data, accept changes, and so on. And I will see you in the next video.